Lenovo's new Legion Pro 5i has a problem. Don't get me wrong, it's a good gaming laptop, as you'll see in this review, but last year's version was a good laptop too, and costs much less money. So let's find out if the new changes make the 2023 model worth it. But before that laptop, Gigabyte sponsored this part of the video about some different laptops. The Aorus 15 and 17 gaming laptops have been redesigned this year, and with Nvidia's latest RTX 40 series graphics, they're more powerful than ever. Gigabyte's G5 laptop offers a more budget-friendly option, but with RTX 40 GPUs, you still get the latest features including ray tracing, DLSS, and frame generation to enhance your gaming experience. And Gigabyte have got content creators covered with their newly updated Aero 16 and brand new Aero 14 for ultimate portability. Check out the sponsored link below to find out more. Alright, back to the Legion review. It's got an onyx grey finish with aluminum lid, but the bottom and interior seem to be plastic. Build quality feels good. There's not much flex to the keyboard or the metal lid. The hinge feels nice and sturdy too, supporting the screen well and preventing it wobbling. The front of the lid sticks out to make one finger opening easy, and the screen goes right back for sharing. It's slightly wider and thicker compared to last year's version, but it's still quite portable for a 16-inch gaming laptop. The laptop alone weighs 5.5 pounds or 2.5 kilos, increasing to 7.9 pounds or 3.6 kilos with the large 300-watt charger. Unlike the higher-tier Legion Pro 7i, it does not come with the new smaller and lighter 330-watt GAN charger. My Legion has Intel's Core i9-13900HX processor, Nvidia's RTX 4070 graphics, 32 gigs of memory, and a 16-inch 240Hz screen. But there are a number of different configurations available. You can check them out with the link below the video. There's a 1080p camera above the screen in the middle with a privacy shutter, but no IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. Here's how the camera and microphones look and sound, and this is what it sounds like while typing on the keyboard. The keyboard has 4 zones of RGB backlighting, and all keys and secondary functions get lit up. You can hold function and press the spacebar to cycle through 3 profiles with built-in effects. There's no keyboard shortcut to adjust key brightness, but you can change between 2 levels through Spectrum. The available lighting effects in here are very basic. I thought typing on the keyboard felt good. The keys have a little clicky feel to them with 1.5mm of key travel. The plastic touchpad feels smooth and worked well. The left side has a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port. The right has a 3.5mm audio combo jack, a switch to disconnect the camera, and there's a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A on this side too. The rest is on the back. From left to right there's Gigabit Ethernet, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C port, HDMI 2.1, 2 more USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports for 4 in total, and the power input on the far right. The Ethernet port isn't facing the preferred way, but it's high enough that you can still remove it without lifting the laptop. According to Lenovo's spec sheet, the rear Type-C port can be used to charge the laptop with up to 140 watts. And although it should still support 100 watts of Type-C charging, it did not work with our usual eGPU enclosure, which is Razer's Core X Chroma. The same thing that happened on our Legion Pro 7i. 140 watts is only possible if the charger supports 20 volts 7 amps, which is not part of the Power Delivery 3.1 standard. So you might need a special Lenovo charger to actually take advantage of this. Both Type-C ports offer DisplayPort 1.4 support, and those along with HDMI always connected directly to the Nvidia graphics, whether Optimus was on or off. We also confirmed HDMI could run a 4K screen at 120Hz 12-bit with G-Sync. Getting inside requires unscrewing 10 Phillips head screws, with the 4 down the front shorter than the rest. It was much easier to open compared to the higher tier Legion Pro 7i, because the side vents aren't part of the bottom panel. Still though, I definitely needed pry tools to open it. The ones I use are linked below the video. Inside we've got the battery down the front, 2 memory slots just above near the middle, 2 M.2 storage slots on either side above the battery, and a Wi-Fi 6E card above the installed SSD. The Wi-Fi speed was great, one of the faster results, just a little ahead compared to last year's Legion 5i Pro, but with more of a lead compared to this year's higher tier Pro 7i. The 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD was performing well in both reads and writes, but you can't fit a double-sided M.2 drive into the primary slot on the right. Technically, it can fit if you're willing to bend it slightly, but yeah, not ideal. The second slot can fit it no problem though. I took off half a point from the upgradability score for not supporting double-sided M.2 drives in both slots, but it's still a decent score, and it was slightly ahead of the Legion Pro 7i because that's harder to open. Mine has DDR5 5600 memory sticks installed, and it runs at that speed because I've got an i9 13900HX processor, but it's also available with i7 13700HX and i5 13500HX processors, which only support DDR5 4800, so expect slower memory with the i5 or i7 configurations. The speakers are found underneath towards the front on the left and right sides. They sound decent for a gaming laptop, but aren't as clear at higher volume. There's a little bass, but also some wrist rest vibration. They're fine, but not amazing. The Latencymon results were pretty bad, but there is a known NVIDIA bug that makes this worse. The Legion is powered by a 4-cell 80Wh battery. The Vantage software gives us some information about battery health and allows us to turn on conservation mode, which helps increase the lifespan of the battery by setting the maximum charge level to 75 to 80%, but you cannot use it at the same time as rapid charge. There's also a new option to charge slowly overnight, again to help battery lifespan. We've got the option to swap the screen between 60 and 240Hz by pressing the function and R shortcut. This does not yet happen automatically when you unplug the charger, but Lenovo says it's coming to 2023 models in mid-May. The battery lasted 9% longer by manually swapping to 60Hz and turning overdrive off. Both of these are manual changes for now, but they're not difficult to make. It's not too bad compared to other Intel-based laptops, but also nothing especially amazing, almost lasting for 5 hours in the YouTube video playback test. Basically, right in line with last year's Legion 5i Pro. Let's check out thermals next. We've got two fans with the CPU and GPU sharing a thick heat pipe. There are plenty of air intake holes directly above the entire cooler, and air gets exhausted out of both the left and right sides, as well as out of the back corners. Lenovo's Vantage software allows us to change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are Quiet, Balance, Performance, and the new Custom mode, which was added this year. Balance mode has an AI option for supported games. It detects the game and tries to optimize performance and fan noise. There's a dedicated chip for it this year, which takes that workload away from the CPU. Custom mode lets you customize CPU and GPU power and thermal limits, and I've tested with all settings maxed out. Custom mode also lets you tweak the fan speed or set it to full speed. There's a one-click GPU overclock option, which we've tested whenever custom mode is used. Near the end of my testing, I got this weird bug where I can't actually change the performance mode in Vantage anymore. I tried repairing and resetting the app, but no change. Uninstalling and reinstalling through the Microsoft Store fixed it. Fortunately, we can also change the performance mode with the function and Q shortcut, and the color of the power button changes so you can always tell which mode you're in. Custom mode isn't accessible through here, and you can only use quiet or balance modes when running on battery power. I guess while we're talking about problems, there was also the black screen issue that I mentioned in a recent community post. I don't think this is specific to Lenovo, and in theory would be fixed in future. There's also a CPU overclock option once you enable it in the BIOS, and you can use this to increase the maximum clock speed of individual cores, or even do a little undervolting. Our testing was done before this update rolled out though. I've used Furmark instead of the Heaven GPU stress test for the reasons mentioned in my last review of the MSI GP77. Basically, this is because Heaven maxes out the RTX 4070 graphics at around 90 to 100 watts, so I wanted something that could push it to its full 140 watt limit. It seems like most games don't actually do this. I'm actually in the process of testing out 10 different games on the 4070, 4060, and 4050 at different power limits to find out what the deal is. But as most games don't seem to be able to use the full 140 watts of the 4070, consider this as a bit of an experiment. I guess this truly is a worst case load now. And for that reason, temperatures will also not be comparable to any of my past reviews. The internal temperatures were cool when just sitting there idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst case full load scenario. The higher modes run warmer, and performance mode was touching on GPU thermal throttling. The cooling pad I test with, linked below the video, was able to remove this and lower temps by about 7 degrees though. Running with the lid closed to represent a dock scenario wasn't too different to having the lid open. Custom mode was warmer than performance mode, as I've tested with all power sliders maxed out, and manually setting the fans to maximum only lowered it a little. These are the clock speeds being reached in the same tests. Custom mode was performing the best, with a decent CPU uplift compared to performance mode, though there wasn't much difference to the GPU. We can see why when looking at the power levels being reached. The RTX 4070 was running at its full 140 watt power limit in performance and custom modes. The CPU was sitting at 60 watts in performance mode, which is quite good compared to many other laptops, but we could push this right up to 80 watts in custom mode. This is a good result, max GPU power while maintaining high CPU power. I didn't bother testing the AI mode in the stress test because I know it does nothing. It only works in certain games, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider. In this case, it gave us the same performance as the higher custom and performance modes. The CPU can run much higher with the GPU idle, like in Cinebench. Thermals become a limitation here, so much so that with custom mode peaking at 170 watts, it would dip so hard down to 90 before going back up that it resulted in less consistent performance. This is why the multi-core score ended up being lower compared to performance mode, because performance mode sustained. Things would probably be different if I spent time tuning the sliders in custom mode, but we only tested with everything maxed out, so maybe that's not the best. It's one of the lower results for a 13th gen i9HX processor compared to the others that we've tested so far, but it is also a cheaper option with a more mid-range chassis compared to the others too, so I can't complain too much. Performance lowers if we unplug the charger and instead run purely off of battery power. The single core score in particular was very low here, much lower compared to all other laptops we're comparing against. Multi-core performance was still good though, basically the same as the higher tier Legion Pro 7i, which has the same processor. Most laptops I test are in the low 30 degrees Celsius range on the keyboard at idle, and the Legion was below this. It's much warmer with the stress tests going, but not uncomfortable. Balance mode was a little cooler while also performing better, as the fans are louder. The higher performance mode was a little warmer, but again, it felt fine to the touch. Custom mode was a little bit cooler. The keys were only a bit warm, not bad at all, but let's have a listen to the fan noise. The fans were quiet when idling in quiet mode, so it does what it says. It wasn't much higher with the stress test going, and higher modes get louder as expected. It was actually quieter with the cooling pad compared to not using it. And if you recall, this also lowered temps by about 7 degrees. Custom mode was quite loud, so if you want the extra performance from it, you'll definitely want headphones. The screen is better this year, going up from 165Hz last year to 240Hz. And it's actually using the exact same panel as the higher tier Legion Pro 7i. You can change the GPU working mode in the Vantage software, which is the MUX switch, so you'll need to reboot if swapping between a hybrid mode or DGPU mode. With hybrid mode on, you can use the NVIDIA control panel to use Advanced Optimus, which gets you the same thing but without rebooting. You get G-Sync with Optimus off and Adaptive Sync with Optimus on. Color gamut is fine for a gaming laptop, but I'd want more for content creation. And although Although it's rated at 500 nits, mine maxed out at 550 with 100% brightness, so it gets fairly bright compared to most others. Average grey to grey screen response time was on the faster side at 3.56 milliseconds with overdrive enabled, which is on by default. There was some overshoot and undershoot though, which can be removed by turning overdrive off, but that increases the response time to 6.5 milliseconds. It's a great result when compared against other laptops, within margin of error range to the Legion Pro 7i, as that uses the exact same panel. It's also faster than last year's model, but you'll have to go OLED if you want a noticeable improvement here. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in CSGO. I've found RTX 40 GPUs to do quite well here compared to last-gen options, which is why the Pro 5i is now beating those two OLED options that smoked it in response time. There was a little backlight bleed, but it wasn't enough to notice during normal use, though this will vary between panels. Alright, let's compare the Pro 5i in some games. We've tested with the GPU overclock option on, because it's just a single one-click in Vantage. And I figured that most people getting this laptop would probably do the same, as it's so easy. But we have not spent any time tuning the overclock. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested the same on all laptops, and I've got the Legion Pro 5i shown by the red highlight. At 1080p, it was actually slightly ahead of last year's Legion 7i with full-powered RTX 3080 Ti, though the 1% low wasn't quite as good. There are some 3070 Ti laptops doing better at the higher 1440p resolution, and some others that weren't far behind. But again, the dips in performance, as shown by the 1% lows, were notably behind the last-gen Nvidia options. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark, and at 1080p, this game had a couple of full-powered 3070 Ti laptops doing better. It's a similar deal at the higher 1440p resolution. The 4070 in the Legion Pro 5i was right in the middle of a bunch of them, depending on their GPU power limits. The 4070 was in between the 3070 Ti laptops in control at 1080p as well, and its ranking out of the same selection of laptops at the higher 1440p resolution doesn't change. Last year's cheaper version with 3070 Ti was extremely close, while actually offering a better 1% low result. Here are the 3D Mark results for those that find them useful. Now for some content creator tests. Adobe Premiere was tested with the Puget Systems benchmark tool. This is the first 4070 result we've got, but like the games, it's close to the 3070 Ti laptops from last gen. Adobe Photoshop generally likes single-threaded performance, and it's only a little behind the higher tier Legion Pro 7i with the same CPU just above, though that has a higher tier GPU. GPU power matters more in DaVinci Resolve, and the 4070 was at least beating the 3070 Ti laptops here, but not by much. Like the games, only 4080 and above give big gains compared to last gen. Blender is entirely dependent on the GPU, and again, it's near the 3070 Ti laptops. We've also tested SpecViewPerf, which tests out various professional 3D workloads. The BIOS provides a number of extra options that aren't available through software that many other gaming laptops don't offer, though there's nowhere near as much customization compared to what MSI offers. Still though, I'd say Lenovo would have to be in second place. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 22.10 live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, camera, speakers, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi all worked fine. Most keyboard shortcuts worked too, including volume adjust, screen brightness adjust, keyboard effect change, and function plus Q to change performance mode. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And speaking of sales, check out my gaminglaptop.deals website to get the best deal on your next gaming laptop. We update it every day to include all of the latest sales. At the time of recording, the cheapest configuration starts from about $1,450 but that's with an i5 processor and RTX 4050 graphics. Not exactly great value. The 4060 starts from $1,640, while the 4070 with an i7 starts from $1,880. Lenovo don't seem to have the configuration I've tested right now, but Newegg does for $2,020. It doesn't sound that amazing when you consider that we've had last year's year's Legion 5 Pro with RTX 3070 Ti graphics on the deal site for ages now at $1,350. And don't forget, that performs closely to the 4070 in games, which costs $530 more. Of course, the newer model does also have a better processor, faster memory, as long as you get the i9, faster screen, and there are some nice software improvements like custom mode. I don't think they're going to be adding that to last year's models. But for the extra money, it's just difficult to recommend this 4070 configuration over the cheaper 3070 Ti option from last year if your goal is just to play games. I mean, I've done a whole video here comparing the 4070 against the 3070 Ti, and the 4070 really isn't that much better unless you take frame generation into account. Last year's version is still an excellent gaming laptop, and because it's been out for about a year now, it's also available on sale quite frequently. If you want something with a bit more performance, unfortunately the Pro 5i maxes out at the 4070, so if you want 4080 or 4090 graphics, you've got to go for the higher tier 7i. And you can check that out in this video next. Actually, now that I think about it, there doesn't really seem to be that much of a difference between the 5 and the 7. Let me know if you want to see a dedicated comparison video between them.